Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Brent Hubbs. Grant Ramey back on the show here today. A lot of questions to get into. We'll go ahead and start with a topical one. Vols 95 obligatory Boo Carter update. Brent Hubbs, why don't you take the wheel with this one?
Yeah, we'll do this one time in the mailbag because I know there's like 12 questions about Boo Carter in the mailbag. So let's just knock this one out right off the top for everybody. At this point, and again, it can change at any point in time, depending on when you're listening to the podcast. Something could have changed. But at this point, Boo is still on the roster. He's still a part of the team. Boo Carter's commitment to his teammates, commitment to this program has to be more committed. It has to be better than it's been this month is the bottom line there. I'm not aware of any criminal thing in Chattanooga. I know that rumor's been out there. That's just a rumor. I don't think there's anything to that. I think this is all about his level of commitment to his teammates, his level of commitment to the program. I don't think this at this point feels like there's some kind of crazy demands or anything like that. I think it's just, do you want to be a part? Do you not want to be a part? And he's got to be more committed. He's got to be on time for things. As Austin mentioned on the message board, he doesn't need to miss things. He's got to be more committed to his teammates and to this program.
VUT, how do you expect the incoming transfers to shape Tennessee's identity and play style this fall? What are the realistic expectations for this year's defense? Can the front seven still generate pressure without JP Jr., who is your breakout candidate on the back end? All right, Grant, let's work in reverse order here. Who's your breakout candidate in the back end of the defense? I think it's pretty obvious, right?
I don't know who's it obvious with.
Well, I think the popular answer would be Colton Hood.
Yes, okay, that was where my brain went. I didn't want to blurt out two different names to prove we were not on the same page. But yes, that would be my breakout candidate. I think it's kind of obvious because of the needs you have back there. You went and got him for a reason. So yes, I do think that is the kind of obvious candidate. You want me to go with realistic expectations, or are we going to Hubs?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, 2024, I don't expect him to be 2024 because I think you set a pretty high bar. But at the same time, you can be a really good defense and not reach that high bar that 2024 set. I think they can. I think the expectation is to be pretty good on that side of the football based on what we've seen the last few years, and to kind of continue to trend in a right direction there. Like I said, last year's a pretty high bar to meet, but I think this defense can play well too.
Brent, one of the questions here, can the front seven still generate pressure without JP Jr.? James Pierce, still led the team in sacks last year. Obviously took a step back in terms of sack numbers. Joshua Josephs led the team in TFLs. You don't have Omar Norman-Law in the interior. Tennessee's great at playing in the backfield, over 100 TFLs in 3 of the 4 seasons, but they do need to do a better job of bringing the quarterback down. And some guys are going to have to emerge, and it starts with Joshua Josephs.
Yeah, and he's talked about it. I mean, he said, I have to finish better. That's on me. That's my goal. I think the question is, what does their inside pass rush look like? Where's Josh Snell, the transfer? How much does he help? Where's Utley? Do they slide Dominic Bailey inside? Does he become a pass rushing guy inside? He's a different player than Tyler Barron, but I think if you go back 2 years ago, when James Pierce had his breakout year, I think one of the things that affected James Pierce some last year is he didn't have Tyler Barron. And I think one of the things that affected Tyler Barron is he didn't have James Pierce. I thought those two played well off each other. If you go back and look, there were several sacks Pierce got because Tyler Barron had middle pressure because he was lining up inside in a Rabbits package and forcing the quarterback to move, and it played into James Pierce's hands. There were other times James Pierce was so good off the edge, it forced the quarterback to step up, but he stepped up into Tyler Barron's lap. Tyler Barron's numbers were better. Those two guys would have been more productive had they stayed together, but Barron didn't want to stay there. So is there a guy who slides inside? And is it Dominic Bailey? Could Tyree? I don't think Tyree West could slide in there, but maybe. Is there a guy who goes inside and becomes a true pass rusher in third downs? I think it's a big question mark about this team's pass rush. The other thing, too, last year, Grant, a little bit on the sack numbers, and they were down. Tennessee was in a lot of – they got teams in a lot of third and long situations. And because Tennessee was good on the corner and good in the back end, they played a lot more coverage than they did real pressure and blitz stuff. So, third and long, maybe your offense is max protecting, or third and medium, they're going to max protect. Tennessee's just bringing 4 and playing drop coverage, rallying to the ball and tackle, and Tennessee was really good on third downs. So multiple ways to skin the cat. I think the question is in the secondary, can they be that good? That's my concern about this defense in terms of a drop-off standpoint, Grant, is because I don't know where McCoy's at from a health standpoint. Right. If McCoy and Gibson are good to go, then I really like them in the secondary. But I just don't know where they are at that corner spot opposite Ricky Gibson.
I think what you're referencing is complementary football. The last time I was on here, we were talking Butchism, so let's just get back to that. But I agree. Yeah, it's not all about the front seven in terms of pressure. It's about what's that secondary look like, how much do the linebackers grow and progress and stuff like that. If they're good in that second, third level, then that first level, obviously, you're going to take a lot of pressure off of those guys.
And I'm going to give you a name that I don't know it's going to be a breakout star, but his importance is growing every day in the secondary, and that's Caleb Beasley. With the unknowns of Boo Carter right now, Beasley could be your starter at safety. He could beat out Farouk, or it could be Farouk, and Beasley could be in a regular rotation at the star position. I think Caleb Beasley has to play in the secondary this fall in a regular rotation. Is he going to be a star? Is he going to be a breakout star? Is he going to be the star in the secondary? Is he going to be a safety? I don't know, but I think he has to play. I think while I agree with you that Hood's most important, I would put Beasley in there as another guy that's really important, particularly if Boo Carter's situation remains muddled.
Let's go to Vols _forever_901. If the Vols go 9-3 or better in the regular season, will Josh Heupel be will he be in consideration for Coach of the Year either nationally or in the SEC? Grant, I know where the poster's coming from with this. Again, a lot of turnover, Nico leaving late in spring and all that. But again, your win-loss total is at 8.5, right? I mean, this is a roster that can very easily win 9 games, in my opinion. The schedule matches up in your favor. Say you go 10-2 and you beat Georgia at home. Well, obviously, if you make the SEC championship game or something, I think that's a little bit different. But I think just a 9-3 record, yes, given what happened in spring, that's a really good year. But I don't think that's National Coach of the Year recognition. Am I wrong here? Am I looking at it differently?
Maybe not nationally. I think in the league he could get some conversation. He could be in that conversation if 9-3 or better is the result. Because I think we saw in the predicted order of finish, the media polls, all that stuff coming out of SEC Media Days, that there's not a very high opinion of this football team, just kind of middle of the road or worse in the SEC. If you look at based on the predicted order of finish. But at the same time, the national media perception is kind of just Nico and all the fallout from April and all that stuff that happened. You're sitting here trying to pick up the pieces. Well, if you just kind of let him walk and you replace him and you still go 9-3, you still flirt with 10-2 or whatever, I think you could be in that conversation just because of the standard. I think Cubs or the perception, outside perception is, it's not going to be a very high bar to cross for this team to outperform those expectations, I guess.
Yeah, I think my question on the expectations is, does the goalpost move? Does the narrative at the end of the year go, if Tennessee's 9-3 and they haven't beaten any of the big three, does everybody go, well, you look at that schedule, they should have won 9 games. But it's like, wait a minute, you guys had them ninth in the league and nobody was talking about them. So but I just wonder if the goalposts move a little bit. I think for him to be in consideration for Coach of the Year, he's got to win one of those big three. He's got to win at Florida, at Alabama, or home against Georgia to be in that consideration. Because, listen, if Texas is playing for it all, and making a deep run, those guys generally get, even though they're projected to do so, those guys get a lot of love for that. So I think he's got to win one of the big three to get serious consideration for Coach of the Year in this league.
Yeah, win at a place you haven't won since 2003, win at a place you haven't won since 2003 as well, and win against a team that you haven't won against in the Josh Heupel era. I think that would certainly, put you in that consideration, going along with the 9 wins or 10 wins. Pine, would you be okay with Joey throwing a few interceptions if he is pushing the ball deep on third downs? They talk about letting it rip all the time. We kind of talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Brent. Absolutely. If you push the ball down the field, take some chances, find some explosives. If a couple of picks come in that regard, I'm not just talking about third down, I'm talking in general, I can live with that. I can live with that easily, especially if your run game's where it needs to be and your defense is playing pretty sound football. You don't want him to be turnover happy. I understand he had 24 picks in 2 years as starting quarterback. His completion percentage last year, if it is Joey Aguilar, was 55%. It wasn't great. I get all that. But if you're taking chances and some of those explosives are coming with some down-the-field passing, I can certainly live with a pick or two here and there.
Well, he's going to throw a pick or two. Everybody does. Nobody's perfect. But, Grant, I think for me, the question is, what's the pick? You know what I mean? Is the pick you threw into, just heaved it into somebody who wasn't open, just a hope and a prayer while you had a check down that was open or somebody underneath was, what's the reason for it? Sometimes you throw a 50-50 ball and it's a pick. It happens, but are you just throwing wildly and careless with the football? That's a whole different thing. I don't think that's what the poster's asking in that question. I think it's, more of, if it's 3rd and 12, are you going to push the ball 12 yards or are you going to throw a 2-yard check down and punt it on 4th and 8, right? Everybody wants to see you throw it to the sticks on 3rd and long or 3rd, down situation. So, I'm okay with a pick because they're going to happen. You just can't be reckless, completely reckless.
I think you know what you're getting into with Joey when you recruit him and you look at the Appalachian State numbers and you want that number of passing yards that he had in those 2 years there. You want the number of touchdowns, but you also got to acknowledge the number of interceptions he threw. And that's going to happen here. But like Hub said, what's that look like? Also, how does it look week 1 compared to week 10? Is he cutting down on that? If he's the guy, are those interception numbers going down? Is the completion percentages going up? Is he making better decisions as he progresses in this offense? Like, what's it look like week to week versus just the total numbers at the end of the year?
Jaybird 24. Who will have more carries? Star Thomas, Deshaun Bishop, or Peyton Lewis? I think they're all going to play, Brent, and we'll see how fall camp goes, obviously, but I think it's a Bishop and Lewis kind of leading that charge. Thomas behind him. Maybe this is unfair, but if I had to pick one right now, I'd probably say Lewis because Bishop's had some durability issues throughout his career. So I'd probably say Lewis. What would you say?
Well, I'm just going to go under the assumption that they're all healthy.
Okay.
Because everything changes if a guy gets hurt, right?
Well,
so let's just go under the assumption that they're all healthy. If they're all healthy, I'll probably take it to Deshaun Bishop right now.
Yeah, me too.
If they stay healthy, I would take Bishop and Lewis over Star Thomas, both over him in terms of number of carries. Grant.
Yeah, Bishop's kind of where my mind went first, but at the same time, what we've seen from Heupel in this offense when they don't have a bell cow guy like Dylan Sampson that's going to get the majority is they're going to split it up pretty evenly. I think it's going to just be whoever's the most productive back, most consistent back, but it's going to be split so much, it feels like, based on years past, that they're all going to get a bunch of carries and they're all going to have opportunities to be productive. And I don't know, how quickly or one progresses or emerges as that dominant one that's going to get the majority of anything, if that makes sense.
Bud_Fox, would you rank Dylan Sampson as a top 5 running back in Tennessee history?
Man, I looked at this question last night, and you look at all the records that he has, and my first inclination is, man, based on all the records, yeah, he has to be. And then you start looking at backs, and I go, man, I love him, Grant, but I can't put him in the top 5 all-time backs in Tennessee history.
Yeah, just the names, and it feels prisoner of the moment to say yes, but at the same time, the touchdown record, the single season rush yard record, all that stuff, it's hard to argue against that. But yeah, once you start going down the list, it's also hard to find where he fits in that top 5. But it's hard to deny the production.
So it's interesting. You look at, and again, talk about RBU, right? He's 9th all time in rushing yards. He is 3rd all-time in rushing touchdowns. He's number 1, obviously, in single-season rushing yards. He's number 1 all-time in single-season touchdowns. Gosh, man, it's tough. And then again, you get Travis Henry, Arian Foster, Stewart,
Jamal Lewis,
Travis
Chuck
Stevens,
Webb, Charlie Garner.
Yeah,
and that's not even going. That's not Johnny Jones from Mumford, Tennessee, and it's a different era too offensively, in terms of just the number of snaps that you play, the number of games that you play are different. So these are hard. If you base it on stats, it's one thing, but then you're sitting there going, okay, you're going to draft a running back, a Tennessee running back for your football team. Is he one of your first 5 picks if you're drafting 5 running backs?
That's so tough.
I'm not taking him over Chuck. I'm not taking him over Charlie. I'm not taking him over Jamal Lewis. I'm not taking him over Travis Henry. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got Reggie Cobb. We haven't even talked about that, and again, those guys didn't, Chuck Webb got hurt. Reggie Cobb got kicked off the team, but I mean, I just have a hard time putting him there. And it's not a slight on Dylan Sampson. It's more about the quality of running backs that have played football at the University of Tennessee.
And it's a double-edged sword because not only is it a different era offensively, it's a different era offensively very much specific to Tennessee and how fast this offense moves and how many snaps they want to play. But at the same time, that means Dylan Sampson got more opportunities, and at the same time, Dylan Sampson took advantage of those opportunities when you look at the average yards per carry and, the total rush yards and the total touchdowns and all that stuff. Like, you can say, yeah, he played in the faster offense, but he also took advantage of those opportunities when he did play. So it's prisoner of the moment if you say yes. You're arguing against the numbers. If you say no, it's a tough question to answer. But I'll lean no because just some of the names that we've rattled off the last 5 minutes.
And Jalen Wright's in here I would love to get half his carries.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's all different. So again, I think you got a lot of different variables when you ask a question like that. It's a little bit like in basketball, right? Where do you put a guy who is a good shooter but there was no 3-point shot versus a guy who's got a 3-point shot? Like what's Michael Brooks's legacy at Tennessee if there's a 3-point line? Where does he compare to some of the great 3-point shooters at the University of Tennessee? Neither one of you know who Michael Brooks is, but he was a really good perimeter shooter a long time ago when there was no 3-point line. Continue on, Eric.
Dr. VFL 93, good question about revenue sharing. He said, do all football players get the same amount of revenue share as each other, or is it player by player? Obviously, NIL will differ based on how important the player is, but is the revenue sharing money divided up more evenly based on position by position or player by player? Same question for different sports. Said he knows football and basketball gets different amounts, but just wondering if how that all is going to work. If different football players are getting different cuts of revenue share, will there be a minimum for the 105th guy on the roster once the SEC starts using that number?
It's not all the same number. There will be a minimal. Everybody will get something, but it's not all going to be the same number and rev share, from what I understand. And that's in all sports. That's in all sports.
Yeah, all sports. Okay.
That's the way it's been explained to me.
Nashville 615. At the end of the year, we have wins versus Syracuse, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, ETSU, UAB, and New Mexico. And Tennessee finishes 8-4. It feels gross, but still a good season? ? Grant, again, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a moment ago. If you finish 8-4 and that's your wins. Again, it's not a losing record. All things I get all that, but it's kind of a bummer to me, right? That's very much a bummer to me. I think Tennessee's better than that. I think Tennessee can beat a better team than that, right? If it's Oklahoma or Florida or whoever.
Show some respect to New Mexico State, the Aggies, right?
That's right. Not the Lobos, it's the Aggies.
I don't want to disrespect them by giving them the wrong mascot. Well, I'm saying not to disrespect them. Is it a good season? It's an average season. I think the deeper Josh Heupel goes here, the longer he's here, the less that 8-4 is appealing, because he's set up a pretty good standard these first few years where they've had an 11-win season, they've had a 10-win season. If you compare it to the last the 10 previous years before he got here, that's a pretty good season. But the longer this thing goes, the less appealing an 8-4 season is, with those wins that you just rattled off and losses against your the bigger names on the schedule and the rivalry games and stuff like that.
You're looking at a situation, if it played out this way, okay, how crazy is this? Your marquee best win could be Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's just –
that says it all.
That's leaving a lot left to be desired, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brent. Sorry.
No, it's just is it a good season? Sure, 8 wins. It's better than the alternative, but it's a 12-team playoff. You want to be in that conversation every single season. You don't want to be that team that's left out. You don't want to be the team that's not even close to being in that bubble conversation. So anytime you're not there, it's going to have a disappointing feel to it.
Yeah, I also think it's how you get there. Why are you there?
Right.
Did you have critical injuries at different points? It's hard to, and this is a cop-out answer, I know. So somebody's going to put a comment about, Hobbs won't answer any question. But what does it look like? And I'm not comparing quarterbacks to quarterback, but I go back to, And again, I'm old. I go back to the '94 season. That was a heck of a year. That team started 1-3, maybe 1-4, and then they rattled off 7 or 8 straight when you count the bowl game. But they got better as they went along, and it was a youth movement, and a bunch of youth grew up, and they were uncompetitive against Florida that year. They blew a game at Mississippi State with 5 turnovers and losing that one, but they got better. So I think it's part of it is why, what caused it, and how did you get to 8-4, right? Do you come out of that at the end of the year? And again, I think 8-4 is disappointing, but if you have some reasoning why, massive injuries or whatever, and you get to the end of the year and you go, man, this team's got a chance to be really good next year. You got youth here that's good. This guy's good. That guy. You feel a little different about it. It kind of takes a little bit of the sting out of it, but nobody's signing up for 8-4 right now. There's no fans signing up for that right now.
I don't think adding context is a cop-out at all, because 8-4s can look different based on the injuries and the stuff you're talking about. And part of this with Heupel the last couple of years, he's given Tennessee fans a taste of beating Alabama and beating Florida at home and winning some big and winning at Oklahoma. And you give that to fans, they want more of that. They want more of those big-time wins. And if you're going to avoid going 8-4, you're going to keep winning some of those games. You got to beat a Georgia at home. You got to beat an Oklahoma at home, something like that. Just about every single season in this league to be in that conversation at the end of the year.
Context is not allowed, guys. Come on.
Here's the other thing you have to do. You got to not drop one you're supposed to win.
It's true.
You can't have that game. That's and those have been on the road a bit, but I mean Tennessee. You can't have the Arkansas situation. Tennessee was so much better than Arkansas last year when they played Arkansas. You got to avoid one of those. Is what you've got to do. They've been great at home. Tennessee has. That's why you feel good about Oklahoma because it's here. But we'll see. Oklahoma may be vastly improved. I don't know what they're going to look like when they get to Knoxville. But you got to avoid an You can't go to Starkville, Mississippi, and have an moment. Right? I mean, you just can't have one of those type games if you're Josh Heupel, in my opinion. You got to get past those games that you've seen. The Missouri the year before, that type of thing. I guess it was a year before that happened. You got to avoid those is what you've got to do.
And Missouri was a halfway decent team that year. I mean, I think Missouri won 9 or 10 games that year, but it's the way you lost it. I mean, you just got punked.
Well, if you don't fumble at the end of the first half, it's a tie game, or you got the lead going to the locker room, and then in the second half, you just got waylaid. I mean, and defensively, you got waylaid to start the game, but you still were there at the half, and then it just completely fell apart on you in the second half. So you got to try to avoid those deals. But I think right now, if you just don't put any context in it, I'm with you, Eric. I think everybody would look at 8-4 and go, man, that was the absolute floor for this team. They didn't come close to reaching a ceiling.
Yeah, Tennessee also was like that at Alabama. Very similar. Right there at the half, had opportunities, and then whoop.
Yep.
Bad. 23 season was tough in some of those games. Recruiting-wise, a couple other questions here from Nashville 615. Recruiting-wise, are there any names that have been committed elsewhere that Tennessee will try to flip between now and signing day? Obviously, Tristan Keys goes, unmentioned here because he's the big fish out there. But any other ones that Tennessee's going to be trying to flip?
Well, I think you've got Tristan Givens, who's committed to Texas A&M, to Leo. I think you were there. And then the Leo that's committed to Auburn.
Harris.
Yeah.
Hezekiah Harris.
Hezekiah Harris. I always want to call him Emmanuel Harris, but it's Hezekiah Harris. And I think those are two. Could there be somebody else? We'll see. But I think those are the two most notable right now because, one, you don't know where Auburn's going and what they're going to look like. And Harris likes Tennessee. And a lot of people around Givens likes Tennessee as well. So we'll see what happens. They're continuing to have conversations with those guys.
One player on offense and one player on defense that isn't being talked about that you think will be all SEC by the end of the year. Grant, offensively, why isn't it not? It's Wendell Moy, right, on the offensive line. Very exciting.
Very exciting. I was going to go fill in the blank whoever the most productive running back is and fill in the blank whoever the most productive wide receiver is. I don't know who that person's going to be in either of those blanks to fill, but whoever ends up being most productive at both those spots should be in that conversation and is not being talked about right now.
Yeah, I
don't know. Go ahead.
I would go slot receiver because I think that's the position to be most productive in the passing game. And I don't think anybody in this league knows who Braylon Staley is. Now, I don't think that he's going to end up being all conference, but I think he's going to be productive enough to probably be under consideration for that. I said this on the Monday or the Tuesday podcast. I don't think Miles Kitselman will ever get the love he deserves because he's too much of a traditional tight end. So he's not going to put up wide receiver stats at the tight end position like you're going to see at some other places, Vanderbilt and some stuff like that. That's not knocking those guys. It's just they use them different. Defensively, if he stays healthy, I think Edwin Spillman could be a guy that generates some buzz. And I think Joshua Joseph can be a guy. If he can finish at the quarterback, Joseph played really well last year. Nobody talks about it, but he had a really nice year last year.
Yeah, Pro Football Focus loved him. I mean, he led Tennessee in TFL. It's just, I think he had like 1 sack. I mean, kind of going back to our conversation.
And again, I mean, Arian Carter's already in that consideration, right? You can't list Arian Carter as kind of a breakout type guy. I mean, because I think he's already there.
I would even put Ricky Gibson. Like everybody talks about Ricky Gibson too. So, like he's not an unknown. Like right. Ricky Gibson came to mind, but I'm like, well, he's not an unknown at all. Yeah. So, all right. TMini, if this upcoming season has another sluggish offense, do you foresee Heupel making some kind of internal, external move with coaching? It feels like Heupel will get a little bit of a mulligan for this season, but if the wheels fall off, will he be forced to make major changes?
I think there's a difference between sluggish offense and the wheels falling off. If the wheels are falling off, you better make some changes because the wheels are falling off. If it's sluggish, I think we've seen Heupel be more conservative with changes on his staff and being made. It's going to depend on what that sluggish looks like and what it looks like week 1 versus week 12, 13, whatever. If they're making progress, if they're moving in the right direction, if they're moving in the wrong direction, that's a different conversation. But if the wheels fall off, you better be making changes.
Pretty fascinating that there's a lot of offensive coaches on expiring contracts.
That's a good point.
I'm not saying that means they're all in trouble, but it's interesting that a bunch of those guys didn't get rollover deals, that they're on expiring deals in January. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm with Grant. What's sluggish versus wheels falling off? I think there's at times an unrealistic expectation from fans about the offense. That if a guy's not 10 yards open, and I know they overthrew some guys last year and they got some guys open, but if it's not easy, or I mean, you get spoiled when you open a game at Kentucky and you have 2 touchdowns and 3 snaps. Like. That's not supposed to happen all the time. You know what I mean?
You score 40, what was that, 42 points with 14 minutes time of possession. Was that it? Was that
I mean, so sometimes you got to remember that, I mean, the coaches on the other side of the ball, the defense coordinators are getting paid a lot of money to stop this offense, and they've got talented players too. So, I think it's a little bit sluggish in the eyes of some people means, hey, we didn't score 45 this week. What they did in 21, people have said, hey, we're going to play you differently based on what you did to us in 21 and 22, and that's going to continue.
Yeah, you could almost bet the mortgage that Javonte Payton was found in the end zone there in the first quarter.
It's going to be open.
Open. They weren't even going to look his way.
No, but he got his one. I mean, it was crazy those first 2 years. I mean, it was just like, and guys were so wide open. You didn't even have to hit guys in stride, Grant. I mean, you could fair caught some of those. Now, some of them you did, obviously, when we're frozen ropes, but there are other times a guy could just stop and wait on the ball. Hey, okay, I'll catch it in the end zone here. I mean,
for me, it's always South Carolina, year 1 at home. And I guess, was that year 1? I think it was year 1. And I can't remember even who it was, just running completely wide open. Like there was nobody even in the area code. That's always the play that stands out to me, even though I can't remember names, numbers, years, anything like that.
And then when you get a matchup to where the defenders are so confused and you have a linebacker following Jalen Hyatt out to the numbers and man coverage, and you're just everybody, all 101, whatever, how many people it holds now, just sitting there like, okay, this is going for 6.
Yeah, that's one of the. That's one of those when you're doing the spot board, you just don't take your hand off Jalen Hyatt. It's like, okay, that's a win as long as he looks right. That's a touchdown.
Yeah,
In 2022, it just kept happening every single week. Like, how has nobody got the memo yet to cover this guy?
But I remember that Kentucky game. It happened like twice, like 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, adjustment defense.
Yeah.
Like, how can you let that happen one time, much less 3 times against the best wide receiver in the country this year? It was just
2021. They went to Missouri. They scored 28 points like in a quarter. It was like the first time since 2000. And then the very next week against South Carolina, they scored 28 points in a quarter. I guess the first quarter or something. Yeah. It's like that hasn't happened in a whole 7 days.
Let's go to Rockytopmojo. Has there ever been a player you watched as a freshman and you just knew were going to be a big star in the NFL? If so, who was it? And are there any players on the current team that kind of give you that same feeling?
Eric Berry, Jamal Lewis, even though he didn't play as a freshman, Sean Ellis, even though he didn't play as a freshman because he was a partial, John Henderson. I mean, when you're 6'7" and 300 pounds, you know, you're like, okay, that guy can play. Here's a great eval by me. That guy's good. You know what I mean? I mean, Jamal Lewis to me is the closest thing I've seen to a guy who got off the bus and could have gotten off the bus at the Baltimore Ravens training camp by taking the wrong bus instead of getting off at Tennessee's training camp. I think he would have made the roster for the Baltimore Ravens as a 18, 19-year-old. I mean, it was just different, just totally different.
Eric Berry just never spent a second looking like a freshman. I mean,
Right.
He looked like a veteran the day he stepped on campus. I mean, from day one. We didn't get to see Alvin Kamara as a freshman, but his whole career here, it was like, why is he not getting more touches and why is he not getting more opportunities? And then the same thing in the NFL draft. Like, I didn't know he was going to be as productive and as good as he's been for the number of years that he's been. But I remember when the Saints picked him in whatever it was, the 3rd round, like, why did nobody want to take a flyer on this guy earlier? Like, it just seemed like insane value at that stage in the draft, that a guy that looked so versatile, so productive, could do so much stuff at the college level, at the SEC at the highest level. Well, why would that not translate to the NFL, which it has?
Brent, did Trey Smith as a freshman give you those vibes? And are there any freshmen on the team right now? I guess it might be too early to tell. We haven't seen him really play. But anybody on the team right now kind of give you those thoughts?
I mean, you knew Trey still had some development, but you knew everything was there that needed to happen, and you knew he had the mentality. You know, there's some guys who burst onto the scene as a freshman, and you look like, okay, this guy's going to be a rock star, and they just don't have the mentality to do it. That's why I think you got to be careful about picking anybody right now that's a freshman. I mean, 15 spring practices for those who are here. I mean, it's hard to sit here and go, well, that guy's I think David Sanders is going to be an NFL guy. I don't think he's ready for the NFL right now. And maybe that's not exactly what the guy was asking question-wise. But I look at David Sanders and I go, if he stays healthy with the drive and the mentality he has, there's no reason he doesn't play a long time in the National Football League. I mean, there's nothing to suggest that he's not going to play a long time in the National Football League because of kind of the mental makeup he has with the physical skills that he has.
Vols Forever 901, what quarterback in the SEC is the closest comp for Joey Aguilar? For example, is he a rich man's Diego Pavia, a poor man's Arch Manning, etc.? What do you think, Grant?
I mean, I looked at this question. I started looking up Diego Pavia numbers. I think his rush attempt numbers at Vanderbilt last year were pretty crazy high. And I don't think, and you turn on Joey highlights, and there's a lot of running plays where he's tucking it and running and making big plays. But I don't think I think he had like maybe 50 as a freshman at App State and maybe 40 something in his second year there. I don't think his attempt rushing numbers are that high to compare him to a Diego Pavia. I want to
say Pavia was like in top 5 in attempts in the SEC.
I was trying to pull it up. It's really high. 192 last year at Vanderbilt and 176 at New Mexico State 2 years ago. Like, Joey's not going to run. If he's running that much, you probably got a problem. So I don't know what the comparison is, but I don't think Diego Pavia is the direction to go. Even though Joey is athletic and can move and can run a little bit, I don't think it's going to be 192 attempts.
I did a bit of not a deep dive, but kind of like a semi-deep dive on Bo Perbula, the quarterback from Missouri, come over from Penn State. I mean, he got in game action like when they were up like 35-3, 42-7, stuff like that. He ran a ton. There wasn't many throws on his highlight tapes on YouTube, so I'm intrigued to see how he kind of compares. But again, I don't going back to the running comment, I don't think that that's going to be Joey at Tennessee. I think that he'll run when needed, but I don't think that he's going to be they're going to call design run plays for him like they should have done at points, like they started to do a little bit with Hendon Hooker at the end of last year.
I mean, with Nico.
Yeah, Nico. Yeah.
They
did Hendon Hooker in big games, which I liked, but Nico's last year. ETSUVol, when will we hear something on the apparel deal?
I think the hope would be by the end of this week. I think everybody's got to get signed. Everything's got to get signed and legalized and redlined and all those things. I mean, I think it's very, very close. I mean, I think the hope would be this week. I really don't think you want that to be a news cycle story in camp if you can avoid it, but we'll see if they get it done. But the hope would be, before the end of this week. But to borrow my Apollo 13 line, it's getting big in the window on the week. So we're about to run out of time here. So we'll see what happens.
Well, they need to get it in there so we can ask them about it next week. So a media day. So
they're going to get asked about it whenever. But I mean, I don't know that you want to drop that news, at 11 o'clock on Tuesday before everybody goes in front of the podium at 12:30 on Tuesday. So we'll see.
Better odds of becoming a Vol, Gray, Keys, or Hyder. Is it possible to land all three?
I don't think they land all three. Personally, I don't know. Austin and Matt would know much better between Hyder and Keys. I think Hyder and Keys are better. There are better chances with those two than there is Gray. That's how I'll leave it, because I don't want to step on a rake and screw something up. Because Austin will scold me once he gets back from chasing a white ball in a foreign country.
I thought he got fired this week.
He keeps chasing white balls in foreign countries. We're going to have some conversations. What's his commitment level to his team?
Oh, that's funny. TPSReports, how is UT dividing up the $20.5 million house money? Any allocation to non-revenue sports? Are some of the players receiving House and Spyre money? And has Spyre's strategy changed after the NIL Go enforcement started? Start at the top, Brent. Again, we've kind of broken down the pie here a little bit, but is there ever going to be some specifics listed with how that's divided up?
I don't think Tennessee's ever going to offer specifics. I think some of the stuff that's floating out there has been pretty close to accurate from what I'm told in terms of baseball around 750. I think women's basketball 750 to $1 million, somewhere probably in that ballpark. And then obviously you've got basketball and then you've got football. So I think what's kind of been floated around out there is pretty close. I don't know that it's 100% right, but it's pretty close. In terms of the second part of those questions, I mean, we've already seen an adjustment grant to the House settlement that is basically put the collectives back in business after the collectives were, it felt like they were going to be out of business. Now it feels like they're back in business. And so we've pretty much driven through that guardrail in about 23 days and onward and upward. So as someone who's been around this, not at Tennessee, but someone who's been involved in the NIL world told me, I said, all that they have done with the House settlement is they put the floor of your salary expenditures at 20 some odd $1 million. And then you just escalate from there. So in year one, you were doing it for, a third or a quarter of that. Now you're spending that and then some. So they've just created that as the basement for it all, or the floor for it all. And then you're building on top of that, which is going to kill some programs around the country and going to create further separation. This idea that it's going to create further parity is not going to be the case at all. Those who have are going to spend, and those who have not are going to go broke.
Yeah, I don't know how the strategy changes. You're going to need every penny that you can get, just like you've always needed every penny that you can get. What's interesting, I think, with the dividing up is I think every school in the SEC is going to be pretty much the majority football, except for there's probably going to be one outlier in Kentucky. And then I think everybody in men's basketball is probably going to be in the same neighborhood percentage-wise, except for Kentucky. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of where those programs go.
Yeah, there is already one reported outlier, and that is Kentucky at 45%. I mean, that came out, last week? I mean,
now there's some denial to that. We'll see what that looks like. But we know Kentucky was against because there was talk at one point about the league having a standard across the board, a standard allocation for football, basketball, and then everybody else. And the everybody else, you could break it up however you wanted to, but you weren't going to spend more percentage. It was going to be an equal percentage for football for all schools out of your rev share number, and an equal number. Everybody's going to have the same number for basketball, same number for football. And Kentucky was like, no, we're not doing that. And so they said, okay, well, everybody can just do whatever they want to. I think the question is Kentucky really going to do that when football makes more money at Kentucky than basketball does? Now, Kentucky fans don't want to hear that, but every published document will tell you even a 6-7 win Kentucky football team is making more money than a team that's going to go play for a national title in basketball. And so, where is, I mean, are you really sharing your revenue with the people that make the most revenue? Those are always the debates, but we'll see if Kentucky goes through with the 45% story that's out there.
Just 45%. Good grief. That is high. So high. For reasons you pointed out, that makes absolutely no sense to me.
You better be cutting down on a lot of nets.
I mean, turnover, coaching year after year. If you're not, going on a deep run here. I mean, seriously, like that's the it should always be the expectation of places like that. But still, like, goodness. Are some players receiving House and Spyre money? Yes. I want to make sure that one was answered. Intentional vol. How much will we be talking about penalties as the football season plays out? It could be even more magnified this year with all the question marks on offense. I like to think that we put more of an emphasis on playing cleanly as possible to help out the offense. Man, I'm with you. I hope there's an emphasis there as well. There's always going to be some penalties in this offense, the tempo, the way that they flirt with offensive pass interference all the time. But Brent, or Grant, whoever, it's the stupid penalty. It's lining up offsides 3 times by one player in a game. It's hitting somebody after the play. It's a block in the back on punt return. I mean, just clean that crap up. I mean, Heupel's teams are always so heavily penalized, and it's so frustrating. You can take some of that with the offense, and sometimes there's going to be pass interference or holding or whatever. That's football, but it's the stupid penalties. Yeah, I mean, I hope there's more of an emphasis, but as Brent Hubbs will say, until I got to see it to believe it, right? That's where I'm at on the penalties here.
Ditto.
100%. I mean, it's been a talking point for how long now? And it's
Since
going to be
Josh Heupel's been here.
Right. So it's going to be a talking point until we see it, like Eric said, with our eyeballs, that they're correcting it and it's no longer an issue. It's going to be a talking point until then. So we'll see how long that is.
I mean, if it wasn't him, I apologize, and I hope his family's not listening to the show. But was it Caleb Herring last year that lined up offsides 3 times in a game? Like, what are you doing? And you're not even a full-time player. Like, golly. Let's go to Athrun here. Any Savion Hyder updates, Brent?
No, I think everybody's just waiting to see when the time is. When's he going to do something? Is it going to be September? Is it going to be August? When's he going to do something? He continues to have plenty of discussions with Tennessee. Obviously, he's talking to Michigan. Michigan people seem to be growing in some confidence. I don't get the sense that Tennessee's losing confidence. I think at this point in time, a lot of people are guessing because this family just plays everything close to the vest. They don't share anything. So he doesn't have a lot of tea leaves to read. And I think what he does have is pretty hard to read, but given the fact they just don't converse with the media about anything.
Besides Jermon McCoy, any contact guys, any non-contact guys to start camp?
Well, we'll see what they do with all those guys coming off shoulder injuries, right? Like, are you going to turn Hobbs loose day one? Are you going to turn Arion Carter loose day one? I would say you're going to be cautious with some of those guys and be mindful of some of those things, Grant. I mean, you got 2 freshman linebackers coming off shoulder injuries. I mean, I don't think Cole Harrison's going to be full go when they get to fall camp. But we'll see. There'll be some green jerseys for precautionary stuff, but for those guys coming off some of those procedures that they had.
That is fodder for Eric Kane's daily updates from training camp. The green jersey count, and I'm sure there'll be plenty.
I need it. I need the word count because once we get to practice 3 or 4, it's not a whole lot more than we can get in those observations. All right, Grant, take this one. This will be fun. Whole team has a foot race. Who finishes top 5?
Is that the Volquest team or the Tennessee team?
the Tennessee team.
I'll start saying
Volquest is not doing that.
I was gonna go. Grant Ramey, like Bugs Bunny playing baseball in that episode. Like it was Grant Ramey 1 through 5.
Grant Ramey played defensive back in high school because he could backpedal faster than he could run forward, which
Okay,
is not
so in this scenario, Grant Ramey backpedals, and it's still Grant Ramey.
which is not a compliment to my foot speed. I'll just say that, or my backpedaling skill.
Trust me, Grant. You're faster than the rest of us.
If it was the Volquest staff, it would be who finishes with 2 hamstrings intact, who finishes with Achilles intact, who finishes, who's going to be able to walk the next day. I have no idea who wins a foot race, but I hope it's one of your running backs, a Deshaun Bishop, or one of your wide receivers, one of your skill guys. I don't know the answer, but I would think Deshaun Bishop would be near the top of that list.
Based off EA Sports College Football 26, and I don't have the game, but I mean Peyton Lewis is up there. I think Mike Matthews is up there. I think it was so much easier last year with like
Boo Carter, the man of the hour. He would be up there.
I don't know if Boo was up there or not.
Should be.
Could be. But I do think the conversation, I don't know about 5, but I think the conversation relates back to a Peyton Lewis is probably your winner there. I know in the video game last year,
Ricky Gibson can run. Ricky Gibson can run. He's got to be in that conversation for sure.
Yeah, Ricky.
I don't know. I don't know about all these the freshmen. I don't know. Rodarius Jackson. I don't know what some of those guys.
I think Deshaun is more. I think he's quicker than he is fast. If that makes sense. He's not slow, but I think he's quicker, more so than faster. Which sign me up for that in a running back. Okay, Brent, do you want to do an over under? Or do you want to email that to Austin and he can get it to us and whenever the time changes over there?
Yeah, we'll abstain from that because I don't want to say something I shouldn't say at this point. I think I've talked about Hyder, Keys, Gray. Who else they got on that list? Wyatt, Givens, Harris, over under 3.5. My gut says under, but I'm Eeyore, so I'm a negative guy anyway. So I guess I would go under in my very conservative nature. How about that?
That's a pretty impressive list right there.
Yeah.
I think
I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under.
I would take the under as well. I don't think that qualifies you as the Eeyore. I think they could get close to it. Again, I'm not Austin or AP, obviously, or you, but I would take the under as well. When do you expect Ethan Berg to join the team, and how is the young French player looking?
It's going to take a while to get used to that pronunciation for that name, isn't it? Expect to join, I think sometime in August is kind of the expectation. I don't think there's really specifics there. I don't think it's going to be anything immediate. I think Tennessee will announce something, a signing at some point, obviously, before he gets here. And how is Clarence Masamba, the young French player, looking? I don't know. He's not on campus yet, as far as I know. Last time I checked, it was maybe mid-July. I don't know if that's happened yet. I've been out of town myself, kind of out of pocket the last few days, but I think the expectation is at some point in July this month that he'll be here, and we'll see what he looks like. I think he's going to be more of a deep in the rotation kind of player, more of a, I don't want to put the project label on him, but a guy that's a longer-term guy. So we'll see what he looks like when he gets here. He played, professionally in France, but it wasn't a very high level that he was playing in. There's a lot of different levels to those leagues over there, and he was on one of the younger levels that he was playing in. And with Borg, I think it was multiple years that he was going to have eligibility-wise. I think it's 3 years at this point, but he's also 22 years old, going to be turning 23 during the season. So we'll see, what that looks like down the road.
Do you expect Amari Jefferson to be able to be full speed at the start of practice, or will he continue to struggle with the hip?
I think he'll be full speed, but we'll see. I don't know that for sure, but he should be. From what the plan was for him to be full speed.
Survey 5449, got a couple more here. Who has the better season at wide receiver between Jefferson, Smith, or Jackson? Based on him being very limited in spring, kind of where he is right now, I would take one of the two freshmen, Brent. I think Jackson had a very good spring. I think it looked like Smith came around there towards the end of spring. Both kind of shell-shocked at first, but give me one of the freshmen. Give me Jackson. I think Jackson's one of the more underrated guys in this class.
I would agree he's underrated. I would probably take Smith because I think he's more polished and is a little more probably seasoned and closer to being ready coming out of high school, physical as well. So, but I would take both of them over Jefferson based on what we've seen so far.
Joe Duvall, with one of the biggest questions being the receiver room, and this being a recruiting and projection site as well as other areas, my question is this. If talent, ability, and athleticism is reached, this group has the potential to be what former wide receiver room at Tennessee?
I don't know. I mean, again, that's a good question. I'm not trying to skirt it, but I mean, I've not seen those guys. So, I mean, I can't sit here and say, okay, they're going to be, Marcus Nash and that group, or they're going to be Meacham, Brett Smith, and Jason Swain. I haven't seen Joakim Dotsa run around at the college level at this point. So, the context of that is hard because, when you think about Robert Meacham, you're thinking about him in the Cal game, right? And then you think about what he did in the NFL. Well, it's not fair to put that label on one of these freshmen at this point without having seen them. And again, I mean, Meacham and Smith and, some of those guys, some people felt like they didn't live up to their billing. I mean, as their careers progressed in some ways. So once Cutcliffe got here, they did, but they went through a year where it wasn't very good. So I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. Somebody asked that question the other day and tried to compare it to maybe the 95 receivers. And it was like, guys, Joey Kent played 2 full seasons going into 95. He had 9 touchdown catches going into I can't compare it to that group. I mean, Joey was an established player. They don't have anybody established like that in that receiver room right now.
You could circle back to that question a year from now, and it would still be kind of difficult to answer. Wouldn't be impossible.
But you would have a much better opportunity to answer it fairly than you do right now.
2 more questions, saving my favorite question for last. We'll go ZJ Vols. How much movement does fall practice have on the 2 deep, or is it mainly just getting into football shape? Football shape's a real thing. They're in shape right now, but you put those pads on and you're out there in the heat. That's another thing. There's a lot of movement there, Grant. I mean, there's a reason they scrimmage 3 times. And, traditionally that first practice after the first scrimmage is called moving day because you go in and you look at the depth chart. Things are looking different. That's why you scrimmage. So I would say there's a lot of movement there for sure in fall camp. Yeah,
you got to figure out who you are. You got to figure out what you got, where you got it, and go from there and figure out what order it goes in because if not now, when? That's the time.
Any bold predictions for the freshmen or the redshirt freshmen on the team this year?
I mean, what's a bold prediction?
Like, say I did this as a graphic on my Locked On Vols. Like, say, David Sanders, a freshman All-American. Like, if he plays and starts and plays every snap of every game for the most part as a true freshman, he's probably going to be a freshman All-American because there's not too many guys that are in that ballpark.
I think there'll be. I think David Sanders is going to get better and better as the year goes along, and I think he will be regarded as one of the most promising tackle bodies at the end of the year in college football. Moving forward, come off a freshman year. Now, if that means he's all this or all team that or whatever, I don't know. But I mean, I think David Sanders, if he stays healthy, will be an anchor for you. As for the question about the 2 deep, I mean, I think defensively it's not as important because they rotate as many guys as they do. So I don't think that part moves around. But you got to find a center on offense. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be movement around what that looks like because you're unestablished at center and right guard. In this offense for sure. And then obviously I think you're going to play all those receivers, but there's definitely going to be movement on the offensive line. And then you got to win a quarterback. You got to get the quarterback battle done.
Last question, Rockytopmojo. Coming into year 5, can you do a SWOT analysis on Josh Heupel's tenure as head coach of Tennessee? Good, bad so far. What lies ahead? Boys, do you guys know what a SWOT analysis is?
I have no clue.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Taking me back to economics, baby. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So let's go around the room here. Going into year 5, what are the strengths? Just a couple of Josh Heupel's program. I wrote some things, and I put the run game, and I put the development. I mean, look at some of the DBs they've developed. Look at all the draft picks they've had. I mean, sure, there's some that haven't been developed, but I said run game and the development.
Beat Alabama twice. Beat Florida at home.
Yeah, getting into your big 3, right?
That's a start. That's a start.
Yeah, I think the other thing, too, is for the most part, I know we have the Nico situation, but I think for the most part, their roster management's pretty good. They've not lost a bunch of guys to the portal that were you look at them and say, man, that was just a major critical loss for them. So that they've been pretty good in an era where everybody's trying to figure that part out.
Weaknesses, pretty easy for me, right? Road woes, okay, and penalties. We already spoke on that. You got to win a big road game, right? And then there's been some nice road wins. I'm not trying to say it's been abysmal, but when you drop a game, specifically, against one of the big three or something, it's on the road. So give me road games and penalties as weaknesses so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of those have been consistent throughout his entire tenure. I think the question now, and this is not a weakness, and this is not a strength yet. We're going to find out what is some of his counter offensively to some things that defenses are doing to them. What's the counter to that? That's going to fall into one of those two categories this year, maybe next year, depending on how Tennessee adjusts to these various safety looks they're getting, and when teams are just saying, "Hey, we're not going to let you run past us." And I would say the last couple of years they haven't been good enough in the red zone, but they were elite in the red zone with Hendon Hooker in 22. So that's been a strength. In the last couple of years, that's not been a strength.
Opportunities. The way I viewed opportunities in the SWOT analysis is and you can make it your own, I guess, but like a chance where you can be better. Maybe you've been there before. Maybe you've fallen back a little bit. You need to get back there. So like Tennessee in the red zone, very good the first couple of years. Not so good at scoring touchdowns in the red zone the last couple of years. That's an opportunity to get better. Sacking the quarterback. Again, we had that conversation earlier. Explosives. First 2 years, really good. Last 2 years, not as good. So that there's opportunity in this offense to get back on that level because you've already done it before. Now, defenses have made adjustments. Like Brent said, what's your counter? Any other opportunities that maybe come to mind for Tennessee football?
What's the date? September 13th, is that it? Georgia at home, SEC opener?
Yeah.
I mean, everything in the world to play for. That's a team you're going to have to beat at some point. You've been really good at home. Can you be really good at home against a really, really good opponent? We'll see. Florida and Gainesville in November, late November at that, second to last game of the season. What's on the line there? Can you look better in Gainesville in 25 than you did in 23? I think those are the two biggest things that jump out opportunity-wise in the immediate future.
Here's what's fascinating about this. I know we're finishing up this question. Here's what's fascinating. We've done three of the letters in this economic equation, which, by the way, I did not do very well in economics. But we really haven't talked about the defense. And that kind of sums up the thought. It's Josh Heupel, the head coach, right? And how much of the strength and the weaknesses has been about offensive. I think one of his strengths, and I know I'm circling back here, is what he's put together on the defensive side of the ball. Not a lot of people wanted this job as a defensive guy because, the way the style of the offense plays. But their growth on the defensive side of the ball for a, quote, offensive head coach should be absolutely one of the top strengths that we've seen out of Josh Heupel in his tenure as the head coach at Tennessee.
Yeah, no doubt about it for sure. And I think opportunity as well is flip side of that coin defensively. Like defense was so good last year, but when was the defense really, really bad? At Georgia, at Ohio State. The whole team was bad at Ohio State, but opportunity to grow defensively in some of those big games. Last one, threats. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this. I'll put down rule changes. Do you think changes to the rules in college football have affected Tennessee in a big-time way one way or the other? I think that there was a lot of opportunity to affect it, but I personally don't think it's been that big of an effect, Brent.
I think it's had a real effect on the tempo. I think when you go out of bounds on your sideline between the 20s and you give the defense a chance to substitute, I do think it slows down your opportunity to go fast. It's not the whole reason they didn't go fast last year.
I think personally it's more of them than the rule, but it's both, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do think the rule has some effect with that. So, I mean, threats.
SEC recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, threats is the challenge of being an elite roster every year. Because, I mean, it's kind of like, you can get to a level and you can cycle up to that level, Grant, but staying at that level is so hard. It is so hard to do. And I think that's always the threat is can you continue to build? And if you get into that upper echelon and you get into that top, and Tennessee's right there. They're a playoff team. They beat Alabama twice. But can you stay up there? Can you get with Georgia and year in, year out be realistically in the hunt to win that football game and a chance to win, in the SEC? I think the threat is just staying that way.
Yes, the threat is the Southeastern Conference in general. I mean, you always had Georgia, you always had Alabama, Florida. You throw Texas into that mix. You throw Oklahoma into that mix whenever Oklahoma figures it out, because they haven't been great, but they're not going to stay down for long. It's going to be recruiting at that level that keeps you in that conversation, who you're competing with: Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, the LSU. I didn't even mention LSU. Throw them in the mix. I mean, it's the Southeastern Conference during the season, the off season, all of it. That's the biggest threat, because it is a cutthroat league, to say the least, and you're trying to keep up in that cutthroat league.
And that threat now has dollar signs to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Where it used to be, you had to be willing to recruit 365 days out of the year. Now you got to do that, and you got to have the dollars to go with it. And
I mean, you just went through something in April with your franchise quarterback and the biggest name on your roster, and something that did not exist X number of years ago, not that long ago, with the transfer portal and, trying to figure out if you're going to, give in demands or let somebody walk. It's a whole new world that you're in, and a lot of threats out there. But I think mainly the biggest one, first and foremost, is Southeastern Conference.
I would agree.
Good question there, Rocky Top Mock. That was a whole lot of fun. A lot of good questions. A lot more questions I didn't get to, so apologize there. But really appreciate you guys sending those in. A lot going on right now. We got fall camp coming up next week. Media Days on Tuesday. Practice number 1 is on Wednesday. We're about to have built-in football content every day through the end of the year, so that is super, super exciting. We've already got it, already had it the last couple of weeks, so no better place to be in than right now, Volquest.com, on the Journal's Quarters. Constant updates, conversation going on with the best Tennessee volunteer online fan base there is, online community that is over on the General's Quarters. Appreciate you guys for being here. We will be back next week for the Tuesday podcast. For Grant Ramey, Brent Hubbs, I'm Eric Kane. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Volquest Mailbag Podcast.